and I am here to talk to you and guide you through the history of animation. Animation is a filmmaking technique by which still images are manipulated to create moving images. In traditional animation, images are drawn or painted by hand on transparent celluloid sheets to be photographed and then exhibited on film. From silent animation and black and white cartoons to Technicolor animated films and modern 3D animation, I will guide you through the brief history of animation in this animation documentary narrated by me. Enjoy! Firstly, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. In 1832, Joseph Plateau invented the femtoscope. This disc demonstrates continuous movement for the very first time. The following year, in 1833, a mathematician called William George Horner invented the zoetrope, also known as the wheel of life. The zoetrope also produces the illusion of movement by viewing individual images through narrow slits in a rotating cylinder. The zoetrope was originally called the duodenum in 1833. In 1872, Edward Muybridge took a sequence of photographs of animals and humans to see if all the legs lifted off the ground. This was the very first animation insight of how we move. In 1877, Emile Renard invented the praxinoscope. This allows you to see images in the mirrors. Emile Renard's Purvey Parrot from 1892 is said to be the first ever animated film. It was created by using longer image roll for the praxinoscope, allowing for a longer viewing time. However, film historians and critics argue that Emile Cole's Phantasmagorie was released 16 years later in 1908 is the first instance of a film produced with traditional animation techniques, making it the first true animated movie. In 1919, a silent animation called Felix the Cat was released. Felix was the leading character of a series of short cartoons created by Otto Messmer and became the first real star of the animated silent film era. In 1928, a Walt Disney cartoon was released called Steamboat Willie from the Mickey Mouse franchise. Steamboat Willie was the first animated cartoon to popularize Mickey Mouse and was the first Mickey Mouse cartoon to have sound and to be scored. Steamboat Willie was created by Walt Disney using cell animation. Each frame of movement was drawn to celluloid and then photographed with a multi-beam camera. In 1932, Disney's Silly Symphony cartoon, The Flowers and the Trees, was the first animated film to win an Academy Award for the Best Animated Short. Also, The Flowers and the Trees was not only the first animated Disney film to be released and produced in color, but it was also the first ever animated cartoon to be produced and released in color. In 1937, the first ever animated film, which was also the first Disney animated feature film, was called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This film used traditional animation process of cell animation, which involved rendering two-dimensional visuals on a transparent sheet of celluloid. The cell animation process allowed transferring illustrations between frames rather than having to redraw from scratch each time, speeding up the process, saving time and labor. At the beginning of the 1940s, people began to experiment with computer graphics for science and research purposes. Composer, animator, and inventor John Whitney Sr. built a custom computer device from a converted kerosene predictor, using mathematics to control the device in more specific ways. They could also produce precise lines and shapes. In the 1950s and 1960s, Hanna-Barbera used limited animation to create their programs. This means that lots of cycles were used because they were cheap and fast to make. Drawings are done on celluloid, but the bare minimum is done to get the point and action across. These animated shows include Scooby-Doo, The Flintstones, and Wacky Races. In 1985, Will Vinton made an animated film about Mark Twain called The Adventures of Mark Twain. The film included characters such as Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, and Huck Finn. The Adventures of Mark Twain was the first ever feature-length stop-motion claymation animated film. It paved ways for studios such as Aardman and Laika to take this process and run with it. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was released in 1988, was the first feature film to have live action and cartoon characters share the same screen. 1993 saw the introduction of the Jurassic Park films with mixed animatronics, stop motion and CGI to create the most photorealistic animated creatures ever before seen on screen. Pixar came out with their first entirely computer-generated feature film, which was called Toy Story in 1995. A real breakthrough in 3D animation which secured Pixar's position as the studio to beat. Toy Story was also the first animated feature film nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, showing how animation was beginning to be recognized and respected as entertainment rather than just animation-related accolades. In 2002, the second of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy is remarkable for many reasons, not least of which is the motion capture and CGI created the character Gollum. Gollum was the first real character that showed the world what motion capture and CGI were capable of. A fully computer-generated character could appear alongside real-life actors, and if you watch the movie on the big screen, it will look amazing. 2009's Avatar went from CGI characters in real-world settings to the next milestone of animation. Avatar blew audiences away with its advanced CGI and motion capture techniques, bringing the lush alien world of Pandora to life in both 2 and 3 dimensions. Finally, in the modern age of animation, 2012's Paranorman represents some of the most advanced stop-motion and modeling techniques in animation to date. It was the first to make use of mass 3D printing for its model, creating over 31,000 individual face parts during production. Using all my knowledge, I made my own animation to show off my skills. Let me know what you guys think. For over a century, animators have been pushing their medium forward, inventing new technologies and combining styles, creating popular and unforgettable movies along the way. And no matter the different genres of animation, storyboards are always present. What are your favorite animated films? What is your favorite animation of genre? Thanks for watching.